Officially recording on the camera, and let me hit the button here. You ready there, Bob?
I'm prepared.
Base seat. Here we go. OnTarget 8/30/2025, segment number 1. Good afternoon. Welcome to OnTarget. We're broadcasting live from the studios of LAPD Firearms Range and Training Facility. That's located at 999-999 Bethel Road. I'm your host, Eric, and I have JC. JC, you know what? There's something I've been wanting to tell you, and I wanted to kind of tell you here on air to get your inside reaction. I'm bidding on a gun on Gunbroker for the first time in a long time. I mean, I have not bid on a gun on Gunbroker for a minute, right?
I remember, I think, of the last one.
Yes, this one, and you're going to say, why, Eric, why? This one is a Merwin Out Herbert, okay?
Wow, so it's an oldie.
It's an oldie, 1800s.
Yeah.
1800s. The significance of this one, if I do indeed win the auction, it is the first issued firearm stamped on the back to Detroit Police Department.
Oh, really? Oh, this would make a nice feather.
Yes. Now, again, the
gun with your baby Dragoon.
The gun itself isn't anything spectacular. I mean, it's nothing, extremely pretty, but it is significantly neat in the historical value to it. So.
Yeah, I still like your Baltimore Colts.
I know. So we'll have to see. This could be the gun of the week.
This could be
coming up on a different episode of On Target. Guys, we are the owners of LAPD Firearms Range and Training Facility and are active in law enforcement. But for 1 hour on Saturdays, we put together a group of firearm experts to discuss new products in the market, training tips, and oftentimes political topics surrounding the Second Amendment. Our commitment has always been, though, to bring you facts about our industry and help customers and listeners with safe, responsible ownership of firearms. I want to start by thanking some of our past guests. A lot of these guys, John, they come on Saturdays, their day off, they're outside of work. But I wanted to thank a couple weeks ago, AJ from Aim Point for coming on. Great discussion, great product. If you missed that episode, definitely one worthwhile going back and checking out. Most recently, our friend from Car Arms jumped on with us. He hadn't been on since 2017, Frank. And it was, their product line, you think of Car Arms, you don't think of, you think of a very small product line, but they're also part of Magnum Research, Auto Ordnance, and Bob, I'm going to hit you up with this. They're also part of this conglomeration. They have a revolver that they're known for. The company is BFR Revolvers, okay? BFR. And the revolvers, Bob, we're talking about revolvers, come in calibers such as the .450 Marlin, the .460. We're talking big bullets. So the BFR company, of course, stands for Big Framed Revolvers.
I think everyone knew that.
Yes, yeah, they were. It was always good to hear about those too.
Big F and revolver, but then I think it was the big. I'm trying to remember the name of it, but I'll think of it. But it had a different name yet, so it's been under definitions about 3 different iterations.
Yes, but always good, and thanks. To have
fine. It was a big fine revolver.
Big fine. Oh, they're fine, all right.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, they're big.
You can also
fine.
get them in 4570.
That's incredible for a revolver. Guys, today on the show, I'm going to admit right up front, today on the show, sitting with us right now, is one of my favorite people. Not because of his fine looks or physique. That all plays into it, Bob. Don't get me wrong. Because it's what you do and how you constantly challenge me and our industry and law enforcement officers on law, on case law and stuff. And Bob, that is so valuable. We're so blessed to have you here today. Bob Meader back on with us.
Thank you for the opportunity, Eric. I look forward to being here again. Thank you.
Yeah, it is. It's always good. And so what we're going to talk about a little bit later in the discussion today is there are so many things that are constantly changing in the firearms world. I look back, John, just the last 10 years that we've been on the show, and there has been so much that changed. You look at constitutional carry and the stand your ground. There's been so many things that affects how you go about carrying a firearm or owning or possessing a firearm. And Bob, there are some big changes. Potentially on the horizon or in the works and stuff. And that's why we wanted to bring you here to talk about some of those here up shortly. So So we're going to get to that. JC has a little bit of news before that, and we have a Gun of the Week sponsored by Blackwing Shooting Center. You know, Smith & Wesson hit it out of the ballpark with the Bodyguard 380 recently, John.
Yes,
that
they did.
grip on it and so forth is just, it's gone crazy. Well, their Smith & Wesson Shield, which has been an enormously popular concealed carry handgun.
From the beginning, yeah.
From the beginning, well, they've kind of merged the two together, and they just introduced a firearm that kind of takes the best of both of those worlds. So that's going to be the Gun of the Week. We're going to get to that shortly. It's one that you might want to listen to because it has a lot of neat things going for it.
It does. It does.
Always like to thank our sponsors, U.S. Law Shield. They're in here again today. They actually have a special going on. You sign up for them, you get $20 to spend right here at the store. So definitely worthwhile if you're not signed up with them. And I think, JC, we got you signed up recently. So
yeah, I haven't found the confirmation yet, but I'm hoping that's in there. So
yeah, so that's a good thing.
This will be good.
If you're not signed up for that, Jackson Egress Windows are good partners over there. Blackwing Shooting Centers. We talked about it the last couple weeks, but on October 19th, they have a defensive shotgun class coming up with Greg Ellifritz. I mean, anytime you can get into class with Mr. Ellifritz is a good thing, something to consider over there. River's Edge Cutlery, if you don't have it marked on your calendars, you should on September 13th. On 13th is their 22nd anniversary party at their beautiful facility in Hilliard. Definitely worthwhile checking that out. We're going to try to sneak over there later in the day, but something you should do as well. And of course, LEPD Training Facility, all who make the show possible. Speaking of LEPD Training Facility, John, Vince does a lot of our classes.
He does.
He gets the best ratings of anyone. It has now elevated our ratings to a 4.7 out there on Google, which is just
amazing.
I think it sets us apart. Yeah, just amazing. Just our classes and our instructors are just phenomenal. They are. They truly are. They have been from the beginning. We're blessed to have them, and so
he and I have taught together for over 20 years. We were teaching at the same, together, and he's great individual and great training. So.
Yep, and I'm remiss if I don't thank Ella, of course, back there at the studio, always pulling the levers for us and keeping things rolling there at the home base. If you missed the show, you can always catch the podcast 610wtvn.com, iHeartRadio, Facebook, and YouTube, where the show is archived out there each week. JC, you got a little bit of news for us?
Well, news-wise, we have a couple of things. We're so honored to have him talk about that, so I actually didn't want to take up too much time. But one of my friends who moved out to California just said he was so happy. I could not believe it was 26 years that California had a one gun per month purchase. That's all you could do. You could
For 26 years that's been in place?
26 years. This is what gets me. I guess we talk about California and their draconian laws that they have, draconian laws that they come up with, but 26 years. So if you want to buy something for the family, well, I can buy one this month, but honey, I can't. You can't get any protection carry until next month, and then my son, and maybe the next. It's stupid. Well, finally, it came to final rest. And so now it is a dead issue. They're not going to appeal it anymore, and they're going to accept the fact that there is no 30-day rule.
That's just the price they pay for having no crime, right? I mean, that's just a little bit of what you give up to have a crime-free.
Such a strange state that, and they're trying to proceed with the micro engraving of the firearms. So eventually, they want to have every single firearm in the state of California have to have micro stamping where you can tell what cartridge, what shell, whatever came out of that, which gun did it belong to. And like a lot, and we've discussed this before, but it's these states, it's these blue states when you look on the map. So now Massachusetts said, well, gee, if California, that must be a good idea. So now they're introducing legislation to require micro stamping on theirs, since it's such a good idea. Even the inventor of that says it doesn't work, all the time, and it's very easy to just slightly alter a firing pin or whatever it is that's making the mark on that cartridge. You replace parts. It's crazy, but this is what they want to do, and it's
just like the spent shell casings that they did for how many years, and we reported on how many cases was it even ever used in?
It was presented I think it was presented in 12 cases, but never used in the actual. It was presented, and it was costing them $26 million a year to get staff. And you remember the days they came in, and you'd get 2 empties.
Right.
We have a new gun and be like, well, what's this in here? It comes with 2 empties. Well, that's for the states that have this because they keep one on file. So they have storage of cartridges for everyone who just craziness. And
That's
they said
great.
we've only, they said it just isn't worth it, and they dropped it. But it's what the blue states want to do.
Yep.
Any way to try to disarm you, they will do
There
it.
you go. Something else too, JC, on a future show we're going to talk about. There's getting more and more attention on these forced reset triggers. So if you've seen that out there, a lot of attention on it. They've been out for a long time. They kind of were banned, unbanned, and back and forth. But it's something we're going to discuss on a later show because it's getting more and more attention
It is,
stuff.
and we can throw binary triggers in there
Exactly,
too,
yeah.
because it's a different mechanism. To me, it sounded a little more almost dangerous, but I haven't found anything where they had banned nationwide binary
Right.
triggers. And that's one where when you pull the trigger once, but when you release it, it fires again because there's and that's a little bit different, but than the reset one. But anyway, we can talk about that.
Another thing we're going to talk about too in a couple weeks. Derek DeBross, another attorney. Like, we have 2 attorney friends, JC.
Wow.
That in
The
and
fact
of
that we have any
itself.
friends at all is amazing.
Oh, that too.
But
2 that are attorney, but Derek DeBross is going to jump on with us because
That'll be
there is a
excellent.
lot of talk about what the administration is doing to help people get back their gun rights who may have had it taken away years and years and years ago. So there's actually going to be something in place finally. I think it's always been on the books, but not funded, if I remember correctly. And I think this goes back to maybe Obama years where they unfunded it. So there was a process in place. You get denied, but sorry, we don't have any method of appeal.
Wow.
And so, I mean, there's
That
different
is the
things there. So
case.
he's going to jump on with us, too. If that is something you've been wondering about in a couple of weeks, we are going to have him. Any other newsworthy things there, JC?
Well, actually, I have a whole stack which I have left at home on my printer. So
Okay.
but
I have an idea. Why don't we, because we have Bob here and he is so full of information, let's grab the gun of the week real quick and do that. I'm excited to do that, and then we will in that second segment, we'll go a little bit early and get to some of this stuff because I know there's so much information when it comes to case laws and everything. So what do you think about that, JC?
it sounds perfect.
Cool. So the gun of the week this week, sponsored by our good friends over at Blackwing Shooting Center, is a Smith & Wesson. Now, Smith & Wesson came out with the Bodyguard 2.0, I don't know, 6 months ago, maybe 9 months ago now. I lose track of time. But part of its appeal was its grip angle. And people saw that and said, wow, that just feels good in your hand. Well, the Shield and the Shield Plus has been around for a long time now, and it's been a staple in the concealed carry industry. But they've now kind of combined the two into a new gun called the M&P Shield X. And basically what it is, it takes all the attributes of that Shield Plus with the grip angle of the Bodyguard 380.
Yeah, it really is amazing in the progress. There's a lot of people who bought the Shield, and then that was great. But then the Shield Plus, it's a little fatter, held a lot more rounds instead of 7 rounds plus 1. Then all of a sudden you had 13 plus 1, and that's great. But now what they have done with this new one is really, really made improvements. If you want me to tell you quickly,
absolutely. Yeah, definitely.
Oh.
Yep.
Am I allowed to do
You're
this?
good.
Okay.
Yes.
Are you sure?
Yep.
That they're
Yeah,
okay. All right, since it's tape. Looks very familiar. One of the differences, or there's several differences, it's got a longer grip because it comes with 2 magazines, a 13-rounder, so 13 plus 1, and a 15-rounder. So what they're doing is they've already had the 365 Max, and then the Hellcat had the Pro, where they've added grip length. So when you're grabbing it, you have no problem, even with fatter hands, to have 3 fingers on because they've extended the length of the grip. It is actually thinner. The original one is not much, but 1.1 for the Shield Plus, but 0.9 width.
So it's actually
for the
thinner,
X. It's thinner.
It's amazing.
And
where do they put the bullets, Bob?
And they flattened the front. The trigger guards changed, where now it's more square, and they've actually put some grooves in there for the people that like to place their finger up there to help control the recoil. One of the things I really like is I didn't understand why they did such a what I call a poor job on the Shield Plus with the front serrations, which are less than a quarter of an inch, and they're wrapped all the way around. So if people don't want to do a press check or even changing a magazine when you want to let it go and not pull back from here.
Yep.
So there are many more, and they're bigger. It's also optic ready.
Rail on the front now?
The rail, that was the other big thing. So they have a two-slotted rail. Because of that, they had to make the dust cover longer. But that's okay because the barrel is also a half an inch longer.
Really?
Instead of a 3.1, it's a 3.6. So they made it longer, so it is a little bit bigger. Okay, let's get rid of the bad news first. It won't fit in the same holsters that the Shield Plus did.
Of course.
And the magazines are not, even the 13-round magazine, it's not interchangeable solely because of the plate on the bottom. The 13-rounder from the Plus will not, those magazines will not fit in the X. The body itself is great. It's just how it connects. The fact that I said it's optics ready, they also changed the sight. They put a tritium sight, but also a nice big circle for daytime usage. It's got a U-shaped rear sight, so some people don't like that. But if you don't like it, you can put a red dot on there.
Right.
But it's no problem for me. Got a flat trigger, and the trigger pull is much less. So semi-flat. They
Right.
called it a flat, but it's got a little bit of curvature,
Right.
but not nearly the curvature that the Plus or the standard one do. If you notice the back, they really, because of the grip angle change, now the
Your hand
beaver
really
tail
fits
is
up in
just
there.
almost like no chance of getting slide bite. You fit way up in there, and it also lowers the bore axis for the height of the bore axis. Is just the measurement between the center of the bore and the highest area of the grip. So you can, ideally, you'd like to hold it by the slide. You can't do that, but they get it up there. It's just really well done. They've done some little touches like for putting your finger on the side and holding it. They have some tactile areas there that they put in.
It's really nice. I mean, it really is. It's kind of an upgraded Plus.
It is.
And they're in the stores today. Prices just over $500, but certainly in line with other things that are out there and worth it. So if you want to check one out, stop by. We have them in stock, I think, with and without the manual safety.
Yeah, this one has one, and as I said, it's hard to put on, but that's okay because that's not it's taking it off is where you want to make it easy.
Right.
And but you can forgo that. Just get one that does not have a grip safety.
So, JC, let's
safety.
jump to a break because when we come back on the other side, Bob, you're going to be up. Are you ready?
I am prepared.
You got all your notes? You're prepared? So, on the other side of the break, we're going to get to our good friend Bob Meader, talk a little bit about case laws. We're on Target broadcasting live from the studios of LAPD Firearms and Range. We'll be back right after the break. Okay.
Yeah,
so
that
we'll
does.
do some calculations. Now.
It really does feel good. Your fingers go around the grip a lot more.
So that was
Texture's
1730. So,
Way slightly more by
so 1730.
7 ounces.
So on this one, Bob, we're only going to have, let's see, 630. So give it to me, my 24, that's 1824. So we'll have 6 minutes and 30 seconds. So if you need to at some point, you can peek around here and see where we're at. That's going to be the rolling clock. And then, hold on, let me save this before I lose it.
I can't believe I left this
Audio,
one.
export, audio.
Let me just get my timer.
Okay. Export to computer. Okay, so 8, 30, 20, 25. Segment 1.
Emily News.
So as we come up close to that, just know that when we get close, I'll
gotta
say,
make
hey,
a
look,
plan.
you know what? Let's continue this conversation on the other side so you can kind of know when
I'm
we're
tracking.
up. You tracking?
And if you wanted to add, I just happen to pull this up right now. The 10th Circuit strikes down New Mexico's 7-day gun waiting period. So after that,
Wow.
So that kind of fits
Plays
in
into-
with with what they did with California. So so that is a bit of news that is worthwhile.
Okay, make sure this is saved.
So I could add that.
That's it there. So file. New. Okay, so this is going to be about 6 minutes, 30 seconds. Okay, let me get my place. So Bob, what I'm thinking here on this is I'll tee up, hey, we're gonna talk about this, and then when I'll say, yep, and then here's my buddy Bob. If you want to read like you did before, what did you read what was that?
Oh, that was the Fourth Amendment. I'm not going to recite the Fourth Amendment to start the show. No, First Amendment. No, I'm not doing that.
Okay, what were you? So I'll kick it to you about Bruin. I mean, obviously Bruin.
No, I think that I'm just going to start to say there. The landscape of firearms has always changed, and will continue to change. But most recently, it is changing much more rapidly than what we have seen in the past.
Okay. Do you know the high levels of Bruin? Obviously,
I am. And I'm going to read a couple of excerpts, two very short ones.
Perfect.
Because that grounds us as to where these other decisions we're going to talk about.
That's good because this will probably play into our time we have on this. So when we kick back after the news, then we can get into these other cases and stuff. So cool. You ready, JC?
I am.
Okay, so let me see. This is on target 8/30/2025, segment number 2. Welcome back to On Target. I'm your host, Eric, joined today in the LEPD studios. I got JC is to my left, and my good friend Bob sits to my right. You've heard on this show oftentimes that we discuss new products and techniques in the market as part of what we talk about every week. New products, not necessarily just with firearms, but optics and anything related to the Second Amendment in the firearms industry. But we also talk about self-defense and your rights and how you can use that firearm. But we've always talked that it's important to keep you updated on how those laws change. It changes significantly, John. I mean, we looked at the last 10 years, the things that have changed here just in Ohio, constitutional carry and your right to stand your ground. I mean, there's so many things that have changed, how you carry, how you interact with law enforcement. So that's why we wanted to bring Bob in today to talk about that ever-changing landscape and to go through some case laws that are going to affect us at some point if they haven't already started to. So with that, Bob, it is so good to have you back. I'm so happy you're here. I tell you this all the time and stuff, but when you teach our classes in law enforcement, I enjoy every one of them. Everything you say, I'm kind of a nerd on some of those case laws. I love to hear your take on them and stuff, and so that's why we have you here today.
Well, thank you again for the opportunity. I look forward to going through what's where we're at today.
Right, and a lot of that goes back to a big Supreme Court case from a couple years ago.
Yep, that's true. And so the laws are constantly changing, and case law is constantly changing. It has throughout our lifetime, and it will continue. But what we've seen here in the last couple of years is that these changes are coming much more rapidly, not only through statute but by case law. And that the most recent significant case was issued June 23rd of 2022 by the United States Supreme Court in a case called New York State Rifle Pistol Association versus Bruin. And the crux of the case was that our friends in New York said that if we were New York residents and we wanted to carry a firearm, we had to apply to the state and demonstrate a special need, that we had some concern that we were in fear and we needed to carry it in self-defense. And so we would apply to the state, and they would say, yes, you have a special need of being in self-defense. You get a 1-year license to carry that firearm.
And it was this way for years and years, right?
Right. It was. Okay. I don't know the exact number, but it was a long, long time. So the New York State Rifle and Pistol Association got a couple of their members, and their names are Brandon Koch, Koch, and Robert Nash, to apply for, and they were subsequently denied licenses because they said, well, I'm not really in fear, I just want to carry it as my Second Amendment right. Bruin was the superintendent of New York State Police, who evidently had this authority by statute, New York statute, and denied them because it didn't comport with the statute. And so Koch, Nash, and New York State Pistol Association, they file a suit, and eventually goes all the way up to the U.S. Supreme Court. And initially, I didn't think too much of it because it really didn't have a direct impact at that time on Ohio, right? Because we had CCW. We're eventually at the same time we get our constitutional carry statute. So what impact does this U.S. Supreme Court case? Well, let's back up a moment and take a look at two brief excerpts out of New York's out of the Bruin case. So the U.S. Supreme Court, they held in favor of the two men to say, hey, New York, you cannot create a special need to exercise a constitutional right. And so to that end, they specifically said that only if a firearm regulation is consistent with this nation's historical tradition may a court conclude that the individual's conduct falls outside the Second Amendment's unqualified command. So the historical tradition dates back to the ratification of the Bill of Rights that occurred on Thursday, December 15th, 1791, where there was 12 amendments, and the first 10 get ratified, and of course this is the second. And they were, as you go back and read the Federalist Papers, the amendments were listed in order of priority to the founders. So you look at the First Amendment has 5 rights in it, and then we get to the Second Amendment. And so it was a right that was near and dear to the founders. They did not want the government coming in and taking the firearms away from the people to allow them to self-govern, essentially. So then later in the holding, the court gave out really squishy language as far as what about modern day firearm laws that have been either somewhat new or maybe for decades. How are we going to evaluate those with this historical tradition? That is an originalist concept. Originalist people view the Constitution as it was. We view it as it was ratified back in 1788, the Constitution itself, and then the Bill of Rights in 1791. Do we view it through that lens, or do we think it's an ever-changing document, which just means that the progressive looks at it, well, how do we apply it today? Right? But there's tension there, and just give me one more moment here to give that example. We have the freedom of speech, but does that only apply to the printing press? Or does that apply to maybe something over electronic communications today? So that would be one example of that tension.
So let's hold that thought because we got to jump to the news real quick. And when we come back on the other side, we'll continue that discussion on Bruin and how that has set the stage for so many things that we are seeing today in the courts. We're on target. We'll be back after the news. We are live from the studios of LAPD Firearms and Range. We'll be back shortly.
Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't know I went over there. I was
just
getting warmed up, brother.
John is the right word.
I was just getting warmed up. Brian, get to my second quote.
I know. Okay, hold on. We're back rolling on that. And so, JC, coming back after the news. And this is, we started with the Bruin before. Yep. So we're just going to continue with Bruin. Continue with Bruin, and then I'll tee you up on some of the court cases. Okay. Got it?
Yeah, I'm ready to talk about Brown, Paul, and Bridges.
Perfect.
And then the new one.
Yep. There you go. Mic down there by your face there.
Look at that U.S. versus Cooper when you have time, because it seems to mirror just so much of what you said.
Yeah. All right, here we go, JC. OnTarget 8/30/2025, segment number 3. Welcome back to OnTarget. I'm your host, Eric, joined today in the LEPD studios. I got my good friend JC to the right. I got my, I was going to say even better friend, but I gotta watch that. I got my really good friend, Bob Meader to my right. Actually, JC to my left, Bob to my right. Bob is here today talking a little case law with us. It's so important when it comes to Second Amendments to know what you can and can't do. And one of the things you started, Bob, before the news, we're talking about Bruin case and how that is kind of set the stage for a lot of things coming down the pike. But, there's laws that are out there, and then there's case law. And you talk about this all the time in our law enforcement training. The case laws govern how you go about your business, especially in law enforcement. So it's so important to pay attention to these Supreme Court cases and to these district court cases, because it can have a direct effect on how you live your daily life, and especially in this regards to the Second Amendment. So you were saying in Bruin, it kind of set the stage. It was the New York Pistol and Rifle Club versus Bruin. New York, at the time, you really had to show that you were in fear for your life to get a concealed carry permit, and this is the case in 2022 that really challenged it.
Right, and just to continue, the last part that I wanted to go over for the audience was that they gave some really squishy language as to how we're going to take some of our long-standing statutes and apply them today. So, yes, there has to be a historical tradition, but what they said was even if a modern-day regulation is not a dead ringer for historical precursors, it still may be analogous enough to pass constitutional muster. So what that legalese means is that even though there may not be something back in 1791 or the long-standing history of our country, it still might be able to pass constitutional muster. But the problem is, what is there? How do we sometimes apply it and then sometimes not apply that? Right. And so because of that, we've just had a slew of cases. I came prepared to talk about a couple that I think are instructive for us in Ohio, and talk about, and you guys will, I'm sure, will have a lot of great comments and questions that we can. But the first one is a state case. So in Ohio, after an entry level court is going to be a muni court or court of common pleas. The person can appeal, and when you appeal in Ohio, you appeal to what's called a district court. There's 12 of those in Ohio. So if it comes out of where you're at, your district court, it's binding. You have to follow it. If it comes out of one of the other 11, you don't have to follow it. It's called persuasive. Your court will look at it. They may or may not go that same direction. So this particular case is out of the 1st District, and the 1st District includes only Hamilton County, Cincinnati area. So Mr. Brown was a convicted felon. He was indicted for robbery, and he was not a convicted felon, but he was indicted for robbery, and he was then caught with a firearm, and so he was under indictment for the robbery. As a condition of his bond, he had to pay money to get out, to assure his appearance in court, what bond's for. And he did that. He met that condition of the bond, but there was no other restriction. He is found with a firearm, and they charge him with weapons under disability.
So a condition of bond can be, that's what the judge deemed. It could be you need to stay away from the victim, or you need to, you can't be around firearms, or the condition of bonds can be a whole slew of things that has to be met along with the money. It could be you have a drug test you have to do periodically. So is the judge's discretion for this and stuff. So in this case, having a firearm or not being around firearms was not a condition of bond, but he's indicted now. He's indicted on a burglary charge, which is a felony.
Robbery. Yeah, and but there's a statute in Ohio that says if I'm under indictment, I can't carry a firearm. Okay, right. If I'm indicted, doesn't matter what it's for. If I'm indicted, I can't.
And it says that even on the 4473, are you currently under indictment? So it even goes up to that level.
So for any reason, you're just under indictment for any reason.
A felony.
Oh,
right.
for felony
Yes,
indictment.
yeah,
Okay.
you get indicted for felony. So if I'm indicted for forgery, okay. One of the, and we'll get into this, but convicted felon, okay, so the one I like to use is Larry Householder, our former Speaker of the House that is in prison for bribery and all kinds of other financial crimes, white-collar crimes. His crimes were not violent. So when he comes out, we go back to the long-standing tradition back in 1791. Could I be a convicted felon and carry a firearm in 1791? What do you think?
Probably so.
Yeah, there's no restrictions for that back in 1791. So at what point do we turn on and then turn off the long-standing tradition?
Right. And so in this Brown case, so he's caught with the firearm, he's under indictment, but it's not a condition of the bond.
Correct.
So he gets charged
under weapons under disability, and he appeals, and the First District Appellate Court said, boy, they took a lot, they burned a lot of ink on this case. But anyhow, they ended up going back through, just like they did in Bruin. They went back and did the long history of the Second Amendment. And because there is no long-standing tradition, we're good to go.
And this, I think you even mentioned when you did your debrief on this, that it was back to 68 or something. Is this the one I'm thinking of, back in 68 in Ohio?
No,
that was something different. Okay.
Yeah, that was, there's so many here.
Yes.
Right.
So in this case, it comes out, it gets over.
Oh, wait, no, you are correct. That was this one, because they evaluated the Ohio statute that says that if I'm under indictment, then I can't carry a firearm, and that was passed in 1972.
Okay.
And so they said the First District held that that's not long-standing tradition. Of course, what they never said was, well, if we're at coming up to 250 years for America, okay, that's long-standing tradition. Okay,
right.
50 years isn't. Like where in that? Where are we then?
So this one, I mean, guys, JC, I mean, we've talked about this a lot. So we're saying now, if this, and this is only in District 1, right? Or
First District.
First District and stuff. So it's not binding throughout all of Ohio, but you can almost surmise if it came up in a different district, this could be something that goes to the Ohio Supreme Court, right? I mean, this could go up to a higher level.
Right.
But we're saying that the court is saying that it is not long-standing tradition to prevent somebody who is under current indictment to not be able to possess a firearm. Now, Bob, you and I have talked about this, and I think this is really interesting in this. From the law enforcement side, you're like, what the heck are we doing? This guy was indicted. But we know that the grand jury, you can indict the thing that all goes around. You can indict a ham sandwich. You can get a grand jury to indict almost anything. And is that enough to take away somebody's constitutional rights? I fall, I think, in the faction that says, no, it's not. I mean, they haven't been convicted of this.
You're innocent until proven guilty.
Exactly. And so I almost have a problem with somebody under indictment being taken away. Now, the fail-safe here, and this is why we made mention of the bond, the judge, as a condition of bond, can say, and you can't be around firearms, and that is binding. I mean, that would be binding and stuff.
That would limit the individual from carrying the firearm.
So we might concede and say, hey, if you're under indictment, that's no longer going to be a precursor of you having your Second Amendment rights taken away. But if the judge deems it appropriate, depending on your conditions and circumstances, they can make that a condition of bond, and boom, we're right back there. So I don't really have a problem with that. I mean, I don't know, Bob. I know I don't know if you.
Right. I understand the ideology, but this is just such a significant change from what we're used to.
Significant.
Yes, the challenge with the grand jury is that the defense has no opportunity to raise any issues about the indictment. And I'm confident that this particular case has gone through the Ohio Prosecutors Association, and people are being more attentive to asking for conditions of bond of no firearm. especially when he's indicted for robbery.
Right.
I mean, if I'm indicted for drug possession, or I'm indicted for a white collar crime of embezzlement, should that be a condition of my bond? I think that becomes an arguable point.
Right.
I'm a firearms collector, and I work here at LAPD,
Yep.
and I got convicted of, or I'm indicted for embezzlement.
Right.
Should I be able to? Is that enough? Take away my Second
Right.
Amendment right? Because are we going to limit any of my other constitutional rights? By the way.
Exactly.
This is where it's...
Yeah.
It's
an arguable point.
It is. So, Bob, along that kind of similar line, State versus Hall. This had some similarities, correct? Is this though where he was charged with assault?
Right. He is. He had a pending misdemeanor offense of violence, and for negligent assault. So he's charged with negligent assault, and as you know, when we got constitutional carry a couple of years ago through the state legislature, there is part of that statute. It said that if Bob Meader is, I have a pending charge of negligent assault, I am no longer a qualified adult. The qualified adult part is that where I cannot carry that concealed. Okay, that differs from the last case, which was barring the individual under indictment from having a firearm at all.
Okay,
so that's the
okay.
As we like to say, it's the same thing, only different. Okay, so yes, sir.
I just have a question for the listeners. It's kind of just taking a back step, but it's pragmatic. Well, if you are under indictment and you're not supposed to, do they actually go, okay, you're under indictment, so let's send the police, we want to search everything in your house and take every firearm? Is that how that works?
No.
I didn't think so, but
No.
technically you're not allowed to have it. But like you said, the gun collector who may say, look, this is a forgery thing, I'm under indictment for that, yet
Right.
I have... all of these firearms. Do they ask you? Do they go check? I just was curious about that because
I don't know what that.
We
I
talk about
guess
possession, but how do they?
The judge probably could, ask
Well,
you to surrender them.
if I currently have the firearms, I may have to surrender to them pending the
To
charge.
the police, you just can't remove them from
But
your house.
but law enforcement would be inhibited from crossing the threshold and coming in.
That's what I did. I find that curious. I get asked this by some friends and things. Hey, what happened? How they're going to come to my house? And
So
search
this
everything?
one, so the
What
state
kind of
versus-
friends do you hang out with?
I know.
They're good guys. They have
Okay,
inquiring minds want to know. That's all.
So Bob, on the State versus Hall, then
Yeah.
It's kind of similar, kind of not. I mean, is it enough to warrant taking away someone's right to carry? Right?
I think the ideology behind it is not to carry at all, to carry concealed.
Concealed.
So
Right.
that was what the issue was, because he was carrying concealed, not that he possessed a firearm.
Right.
So I think the ideology behind the statute was that, hey, if I have a pending of a violent charge, you probably don't want me doing retaliation or something.
Yeah.
But again, the judge, as a condition of this, could have set that he can't be around firearms, right? At all.
could.
Right.
Yeah. I don't know. That one is a little bit. I'm not sure what that. You can't carry concealed, but you can carry open. I mean, is that solving anything? I mean, if I'm going to go do harm, okay, let me strap it to the outside and I'll go do harm.
Right.
So I'm not sure how that plays out. One of the other ones, and this one is interesting to me. The U.S. versus Bridges.
Yeah.
That's
a
John,
new one.
Yeah, John, I think you and I might have talked about this a little bit, but this is very interesting in their argument, even though I looked at it and I said, Bob, this is ridiculous. But nonetheless, basically, bad guys shooting at the police with the Glock switch.
Yeah.
And then when he gets busted for having a
Machine gun,
unlicensed, machine gun, appeals it.
Correct. He appealed that part of it.
Yeah, and he appealed it on the basis of Bruin, right? I mean, was
Correct, because there was no historical, limitation about the machine gun. And so this is that part of Bruin where they're like, well, we probably, there might be some things, because certainly machine guns didn't exist in 1791. anyhow, with this, and I think where you want to go with Mr.
Yeah.
Bridges' argument, he was like, well, hey, everybody has machine guns for home protection.
Right.
And-
That was his defense. It was common. It was a common.
Yeah,
you know,
I got the language
Yeah.
specifically.
Everybody has.
No, maybe in his neighborhood.
Yeah, maybe.
But
He said, the court says, Mr. Bridges merely asserts that machine guns continue to be in many homes for self-protection today.
which is totally bogus in so many ways. You and I
In
talked
so
about that,
many
Bob.
ways.
I mean, in and of the fact that it's the machine guns, fully automatic weapons, are under NFA, so it's extra hoops to get them, and you're precluded from owning them if you don't have one. I mean, had to be made before 1986, so there's a finite
Right.
number of them. I mean, the truth of the matter is, a true machine gun in rightful, lawful hands are collector's items. I mean, we were just talking about this the other day. The cheapest you can get into a machine gun right now is $10,000. Cheapest. I mean, that
How
is
many for one?
was yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
Wow,
that's
$10,000,
the
and
one.
that is the cheapest. I mean, it's probably pushing 13, 14 now, and that is a basic full auto. They are in the hands of collectors. There is nobody. I guarantee you, the people who have these do not have them for home defense. They are collectors. They're put away. They're investments. And so his argument, when I read that, I'm like, maybe in your neck of the woods where they're putting these Glock switches on.
Right.
and
That's
stuff.
where I was going to go in defense
Yeah.
of Mr. Bridges, that it may be common for Glock switches in high crime areas.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean,
Even the part is an NFA. Even if you didn't own the gun, but you owned a Glock switch.
Right.
Period.
But
with
can you
no
make that
gun.
with a 3D printer?
Oh yeah.
Well, yeah.
That's why some
So-
people are out on the street selling them for $20, and and there you go.
Again, John, who are
Yeah.
these people you know?
I read about them in the
Yeah.
paper.
You read
I do all the news stories, so I can tell you the,
Okay,
the
okay,
names
got
of
it.
some court
You're
cases.
professional.
Yeah,
okay.
yeah.
Guys, let's jump to a break. On the other side, we're going to continue our conversation with Bob, an attorney who knows a lot about the case laws and stuff. But when we come back, I want to talk a little bit about, I want to deviate a little bit, talk about something we've talked about before, but really marijuana, how that affects your rights as a gun owner, maybe a little bit about how to interact with officers these days under Ohio law if you have a firearm in your car and you're stopped, or a consensual search. That's always good stuff, I think, to go over, because we get those questions all the time, and it's changed. I mean, it changed with constitutional carry, how you interact with law enforcement, so I thought we'd get to some of that. So we're on target. We're broadcasting live from the studios of LAPD Firearms Range. We'll be back right after the break. 17.
Sorry,
So
I'm
what-
teasing you so much,
No,
John.
no.
Okay.
I'm trying to absorb
Yeah.
all this. I just like to just sit back and listen. What I've been doing for our news have been more of the national. I mean, I certainly was aware of the one you were just talking about, as we've talked about it here. But so many of them are exactly like that, except they're across the nation. So I have like 4 just marijuana cases where that the circuit courts have said, you know what, I'm going to kick it back to district, because they went back, and this is what I thought you would find Cooper so interesting, is because they went back to 1791, looking at what was out there, and back then they said there's only 2 instances of analogs, and one was for mental illness, and the other was for violence of terrorism. And they just said, basically, when you go back there, they said that's the 2 analogs that they found. And the 8th, comes from the 8th district, 8th circuit court. And anyway, so they, in this particular case, and they also did another one, both on the same day. February 5th is when they released both these cases, and both of them were like, look, yes, I'm a marijuana user. I use it every day. I do all this stuff, but he's never been violent. So they look back at these cases, and the 8th Circuit goes, there's 2 analogs. Again, as I mentioned, it goes, so if you were insane, basically by insanity, and you shouldn't have to protect the public, you're put risk in an institution or jail or something like that. The other one was if you weren't, but they would send you home. So if you weren't like violent, they'd go, okay, what do they do? We're not going to put you in the jail for this. We're going to send you home. But they said, obviously, they can overlap. But on this particular case, they said, look, yes, he did this. He admitted it. He actually was part of the condition of being able to take it up to the next level. He pled guilty to smoking all the time. And he had a Glock 20 when he was pulled over. But he wasn't smoking the day that they pulled him over, so he talked about, hey, but they went into the habitual and said, okay, this is good, but you have to be both violent and crazy under these two statutes that can overlap, or just violent. I mean, like domestic violence. But if there's no one in fear of their life, and the quote, which that's probably up here, but it actually came from Gorsuch, and it's either the Romney, I think it was a Romney case, but they just said, look, the government to take away, we're looking at people who are violent in nature. That's why we want to take the guns away, not pretty much anything else. And they've been applying this to the cases that I have, like the one that sounded just so similar. Let me just tell you, these are just the two cases. All that's just stuff's at home. But the cases were that Baxter, U.S. versus Baxter, U.S. versus Cooper, and both of those were kicked back from Second Amendment, going, look, you're not violent. We want to go back to district courts and have them take a look at this.
Wow.
You have to explore this further to see if there's any violence involved, because there isn't. This is the Second Amendment. These are all marijuana
the whole
cases.
thing about the marijuana is one thing, and I mean, this is contrary to my beliefs, but if you're saying that marijuana is becoming more the norm, and we're going to let down our guard with people for being a user of marijuana and stuff and having firearms, how do you stop that from the other drugs, or are those all lumped together? I mean,
right. If I'm a habitual narcotics user, even if I'm legal,
right?
I'm legally consuming narcotics.
Right.
I cannot possess a firearm.
Yeah. All right.
Yeah. And the other thing they brought up in the two different court cases, because one heard the other one that came afterwards, but they said, so if you have a 85-year-old grandmother who's smoking marijuana for her others, so does that the same risk factor as an 85-year-old, confined to home person? Can they not have a shotgun to defend themselves versus, the street gangs who are out there? So they have, and this last one was that I didn't even talk about. So there's Cooper, but if you could look these up, and the other one was the 8th Circuit Court of Appeals again. This is the third one they've had here on Perez, who's a daily user convicted, but again, no violence. So they threw that one out, and they made the note that with nearly half of the country allowing medical or recreational cannabis use, millions of otherwise law-abiding citizens are technically felons under this federal statute. Yeah. So, really, I mean, it's becoming here recreational now here, and
I know.
Okay.
All right. So this last one, it's only 6 minutes 30 seconds. So it's short, and we got to leave me about 15 seconds to leave at the end of it. So it's going
I'd like to lead off with Hermione, and that'll lead right into the cannabis, because this is that new case that.
Definitely. To. Yep. So just watch the clock. 6 minutes 30 seconds. Probably 6 minutes, and I got 30 seconds to get us out and say thanks for coming and. That thing. So, and I'll lead you on a couple of the other things too about how to interact with an officer with a gun and stuff. So, so we hit the record button there. So this is OnTarget 8/30/2025, segment 4. Here we go. Welcome back to OnTarget. I'm your host, Eric, joined today in the LEPD studios, the live LEPD studios at 999 Bethel Road. I got JC to my left, my good friend Bob to my right. We're talking case laws, we're talking brewing, we're talking about how these affect your rights to carry a firearm. Bob, you had a case that just came down that you said that is very interesting.
Right. So this case is out of the 5th Circuit that's out west and includes Texas. And Mr. Hemani, Hemani, admitted to being a regular consumer of cannabis and having a firearm. Because there's not a long-standing tradition back in 1791 of being a regular drug consumer, this case, the court found in favor of him because there was not a long-standing tradition, and he can have a firearm and be a cannabis user. So the United States, as the Attorney's Office, has now appealed this to the U.S. Supreme Court. They have not accepted it. That's called accepting certiorari. So we'll see, but this may be another significant case down the road.
Wow.
About cannabis use. And then, of course, in Ohio, we have our own rules about that.
Right, and if you were listening, if you're listening on WTVN today and stuff, you got to go back and listen to watch it on Facebook, because we just had a great conversation outside of on air about this during the commercial break and stuff. So definitely go back and check that out. But Bob, talking about here locally, we get the questions a lot of times here at the store, on the streets, when I'm out there in law enforcement and stuff. You're driving down the road, minding your own business, and you might have just consumed some marijuana. Okay. Officer pulls you over. Now, you also have your gun in the car. Okay. Officer pulls you over, and he or she says, "Man, I think I smell
Cannabis.
Burnt cannabis." And what are the officers allowed to do at that point?
Well, at that point, there's a case from 2000 called State versus Moore. Supreme Court of Ohio says that smell of marijuana does establish probable cause. Now, my interpretation of that currently, because it says the smell of marijuana, that would, at the time, up until our new recreational, that would have included both packaged or raw and freshly burnt. I believe now the only application is limited to freshly burnt. So if you're saying that I consumed cannabis and then I get stopped and the officer smells cannabis, well, I guess my impairment would be at the top of that list. And then, but under your fact pattern, is this fresh packaged, or is this burnt?
This is burnt. The officer has been schooled in it, that they can differentiate. They've gone through the Bob Meader class. They know the difference between burnt cannabis and freshly packed cannabis.
We just trained that.
Yeah. And so with that, the officer can look in the car, right, as a means of looking at that potential crime that has taken place.
The officer may look in the passenger compartment only.
Okay.
Yeah, and he's looking, or she's looking for evidence of freshly burnt. Can't open the trunk. Can't open the hood. Okay.
So in that case, in the course of doing that, they find a firearm. And by Ohio law, if you're under the influence, certainly if you're under the influence, but if you're a user and there's evidence of them being a user and you have that firearm,
right, and that's what Hamani is.
Exactly.
What the issue is, right?
Yeah.
He's a regular consumer and had a firearm. So that wasn't a traffic stop. That was in his home, but there was more to it. But essentially, he admitted to being a user and having a firearm.
Right. So there's so much more to come down this. Before we go, Bob, I wanted to hit you up on one other thing, because we get it all the time. Prior to constitutional carry or permitless carry in Ohio, if you had a Ohio CHL license and you were stopped by law enforcement or had a consensual encounter, it was mandated that you, as the concealed carry holder, promptly notify the officer that you had a firearm in your possession. That changed when constitutional carry passed, and that has put a different wrinkle on it. So in that same scenario, you get pulled over. This time they take marijuana out of the mix. You have your firearm in the car. You may or may not have it with under constitutional carry versus Ohio CHL license, but at this point, you do not have a legal obligation to tell that officer.
That was a big change, right?
Huge change.
That was June 13th of 22 was when that became effective. And so now if I'm stopped, you stop me as a law enforcement professional, I can have a bunch of firearms in the car. If you don't ask, I don't have to tell.
What happens if I ask and you say no and I find out otherwise?
Yeah. Now, I believe it begins as an M2. It's a pretty low crime, but right.
So you can, once asked.
Right. You could arrest me at that point.
Okay.
Right.
So once asked. But as we always say, and I know we're coming to the end here, as we always say, though, it is best practice. It is best to tell that officer that you have it. It completely helps the situation.
Sure.
If you're stopped and you say, hey, officer, I have it. It's on my hip, or I have it in the glove box. As an officer walking up to the car, now I don't want to say I let my guard down, but I'm a little more at ease knowing that this person has been honest with me and they told me about the firearm. Bob, thanks so much for spending this hour with us. I don't know where the time has went. Yeah, we needed about 5 hours.
We could do another segment of this.
I know. We need to get you on the books for November or something like that.
Love to come back.
If your schedule permits and stuff. Guys, thanks for spending the time with us. If you have any questions, certainly reach out to us and ask. If we don't know the answer, we can certainly go to those who do. And so thanks for the time, and check us us out there on Facebook and on YouTube. We will see you next week. And as always, guys, let's be careful out there.
What he got, but when it went up to the Eighth Circuit, they said
historical tradition.
Well,
Yeah.
they just said basically because he was acquitted at the lower levels of drug trafficking and any gun charges because he didn't have with him, but because he charged him with illegal possession as a marijuana user and 36 months prison term. Well,
Wow.
They threw it out. What I think you'll really find interesting, I keep mentioning this Cooper one in the.
Wait, hold on one second, JC. So I can. 8/30/2025 OnTarget promos. This is Eric from OnTarget. This week we keep you updated on your right to keep and bear arms, and the gun of the week is sponsored by Jackson Egress Windows. Tune in right here Saturday at noon or live from LAPD Studios on Bethel Road. Tune in tomorrow at noon or live from LAPD Studios on Bethel Road. Tune in today at noon or live from LAPD Studios on Bethel Road.